Rebecca, working through Nancy Klein's 10 components as we are, we now reach the next, and I'm going to put it on the screen here. And the next is, with a click of a button, because it always works perfectly, there it is, feelings. Allowing emotional release. So much more than that, I know. So thinking environment, feelings, and get the words right for myself, allowing sufficient emotional release to restore thinking. What's that mean to you?
I like this one actually, because if we have a very strong emotion present, I think we can get caught up in that rather than thinking about perhaps what we'd intended to think about or what we wanted to think about. So for example, this has possibly happened before, where you go to an interview and you feel incredibly nervous, incredibly anxious, and all you're thinking about is your heart's beating faster, you're feeling like you're really hot and uncomfortable. They ask you this question that you should really know the answer to really easily, and you start to stumble and you start to, stutter and things, and you get caught up in that. So I think sometimes being able to acknowledge our feelings and have a mechanism for releasing that then allows us to concentrate on what we were thinking about more clearly. So I do get this one. I think maybe it's a little bit more awkward to put into words as easily, but I can see how that's important. Yeah,
I think I'm in a similar space. I get it. It's just hard to talk about it. And I think thinking is made more easily when we're aware of our feelings, when we're aware perhaps of the impact on others of those feelings, because I think that sometimes in these conversations about the thinking environment, we can come at it from just one perspective. It's up to the recipient of the thinker's thinking to do all the management of the conversation if it's a one-to-one. I think it works both ways. I think the speaker, the feeler of the feelings, also has a responsibility and a contribution to make to the effectiveness of a transaction by saying, look, I just dumped on them here. Oh, they weren't ready for that. Or should I trust them with how I'm feeling? So there's a responsibility for management of process in both parties or all parties.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's useful to acknowledge what you're feeling and then say that. So I think sometimes it's helpful to say, I'm feeling really angry at this minute in time. I need to get this message across. Yeah. And then I can actually think about what it is properly that I want to think about and stuff. So sometimes just expressing, and same with, I think in our culture, we're quite anxious around people who start to cry. We get a bit nervous, like, how do I respond to this? Do I need to reassure them? Do I need to tell them to stop crying? Do I hand them a tissue? What do I do? So it does work both ways. And sometimes it might be, I just need a moment. Can you just sit there with me while I express this?
Well, there's this. Every time we start this, it starts to unpeel. And I think, well, there's this, and then there's that, and there's all. So newsreaders are classic. I mean, I watch newsreaders, and they're describing some terrible, terrible events in the world and showing pictures of it. And they just talk like this in a very matter-of-fact sort of way. You never get a newsreader saying, you're never going to believe this. Oh, crikey, I saw this, it was terrible. Isn't that just the worst you've seen? They never give you any insight into how they're feeling. It's not their job. And yet that is so unusual and rare. And I've never failed to be taken aback by how they control every emotion. Maybe they've lost them all. Maybe they've become desensitized. But you're right. Certain emotions and feelings in particular, anger, frustration. We looked at the 6 types of assertion, didn't we, in the past? And my favorite is always negative feelings assertion, when we actually state honestly and categorically how we feel when we're not feeling something very good about a situation. Right now I'm feeling disappointed, I'm feeling confused, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling angry. And you're saying to people, I want you to know how I'm feeling, rather than I want to keep that to myself.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we need to do that, because strong emotions are an energy, aren't they? And I think unless we release that energy in an appropriate way, it is very difficult to think clearly about things. And like you say, when people feel angry, they often say seeing the red mist. And all you see is that red mist. You can't see the other person. You can't think clearly. All you have is this real strong energy, real strong emotion, and you can't do anything about it. So sometimes just acknowledging it and having somebody sit there with you. I mean, this is not taking away the responsibility. Obviously, if you're angry, then you do have a responsibility to manage that in an appropriate way. But it is useful to be able to express it in an appropriate manner, I think. And then once you've released that energy, then you can start to think clearly and have a better conversation about things.
Absolutely. And I'm also thinking something else. I mean, every time you say that, it makes me think, oh, I think the suppression of feelings, the suppression of emotion, which is so common, diminishes conversation and diminishes group meetings. Because if people are thinking, I'd love to say this, but if I did, I don't know how they're going to take it, then those things don't get said. And those things could have made a huge contribution to whatever's happening. I remember being in a meeting when I had a political existence. I won't say what it was all about. It was a pretty horrible situation that we were in as a political group. And I remember opening my contribution by saying, I think this is going to be the best or the worst group meeting I've ever been in, because it's either going to disappoint me or I'm going to feel really pleased and impressed with some of the people in this room. It was laying down a mark about, I'm feeling this right now. And that means people sit up and think, oh, bloody hell, we don't usually get this. And I thought, oh, it worked. Now you can use that authentically, as I did, or you can use it inauthentically, but you won't get away with it all the time. Oh, he always says that. Okay, just ignore that. And there we go, on with it. So I think we can use that as a powerful lever to get more from particularly group. How many people in a meeting say, I feel right now I'm wasting my time? Whoa, oh, you daren't say that in a place like this, you go mental.
Yeah, I think there is a lot to be said for acknowledging our feelings, being able to express them in an appropriate manner. And again, it's setting up the situation and that culture in the right way can really help people express emotion in the right way and move forward with really great impact.
How many teams that are really working groups, and even get into that, legitimize feelings within their collective meetings? In other words, do they welcome it? Either because they've explicitly discussed it, or it's just part of the culture, the way things done around here. So how many meetings include statements of feelings or emotions? Very, very few, I think, particularly workplace ones. And yet feelings are being felt constantly around the table. Feelings of confusion, frustration, irritation, hope. Let's not forget that a lot of emotions and feelings are positive. You know, hey, I'm feeling hopeful. Hey, I'm feeling really pleased. People don't even say that. They stick to the business of the day. I think emotions and feelings, if legitimate and if properly expressed, can be great energizers and primers of positive things.
Definitely. And I think that's something that, you know, hopefully people can take forward is we are humans, we do feel, it is a natural response.
Oh, that feels like a closure statement to me.